Hey guys, welcome to Clockwork Noodles for another breakdown of the Apothecary Diaries episode number 11. We are nearly at the halfway mark with this amazing series. I've got so much stuff I want to say this week, but thank you guys for your continued support. I hope you're looking after yourselves, and I really do wish you a happy Christmas if I don't see you before Christmas actually hits. There will be some videos going out on Christmas. There's going to be a Christmas special, and there's also going to be some Zom 100 coming back to the channel because that was cut and it's coming back. There's also going to be my winter overview going out on Monday, and my end of season review is going out a week later. I am also going to be a little bit low key again because I am recording very late. My schedule right now is just jam packed. I've got work so much. I am just recording again at midnight, so these are my midnight reviews when it comes to Apothecary Diaries, which I guess sets the tone a little bit more. I am feeling a little bit more down this week just because I have received some very bad news yesterday, but I am very excited to get through the episode review because there is a lot going on. I've also had to step away before doing the recording just because I needed to get a few facts straight, because I don't want to give you guys bad information, or I don't want to give you guys a half-baked theory of mine and then people go, oh yeah, it was actually explained in the episode. So I have stepped away a little bit. Let's just get straight to it with Ardal actually moving out. Last week I wasn't so sure if she was. I did also, I think a few times, try and state that she was perhaps the one telling the lady-in-waiting what to do. It was actually wrong. I was actually wrong with a few things this week, which I'm very happy to be wrong because it means the anime is basically a step ahead of me. It's also not easy to figure out, so sometimes the show can be too easy to figure out. This show here, there's too much going on for me to be able to go, oh yeah, I'm 100% I know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. There's a few things I think I'm certain of, but I can still be wrong, which I think I really enjoy with this show. I do wonder if we are going to get a glimpse of the fourth concubine, the person who ends up stepping up into the role at some point. Mau Mau feeling a little bit of maybe sadness or regret that her father could not aid in the childbirth. I did pick that up on the conversation. I also was thinking throughout the entire conversation with her and the lady-in-waiting that this is ballsy. This is really bold of Mau Mau to do it. That bit later on, they reveal that she was actually wearing a second layer in case she would have been cut. I don't know how much protection a second layer would have done against a knife at full force. I was really worried because as soon as she started talking and she initially said that she was sent over by her mistress, I didn't get the idea that she had been. I don't think her mistress even knew she was there, so I started to get that inkling as we're going through. And I noticed the show can sometimes misdirect on purpose because it wants you to think one thing and then something else happens. This time round, all I could think about was Mau Mau's in danger. Mau Mau's in danger. Something bad's going to happen. She's basically confronted her with all of these accusations, and maybe they're wrong, and even if they're right, the lady's just going to explode and be like, how dare you? I was worried she was going to get slapped or worse. The show did the little thing where it centered in on the knife very briefly and then cut to that really scary face. And before you know any of the details, you're just looking at this lady-in-waiting who looks dead serious at her, and you're like, okay, this is really quite scary. I think with the show that I'm starting to work out is the reason why the show feels so serious, and even if it is a bit goofy at times, is because the threat of death lingers in the air. There's always this really heavy atmosphere with the show. I think in a few of the conversations that Mau Mau's maybe had with Jinshi, and you've got the beautiful lighting going on, everything feels really heavy. It's not just a show with no depth. The show has so much depth. The story has so much depth. And I think that's what's really making this show amazing. I do also want to give a call out this week to the music during the sequence of them talking. And it goes straight into her crying as well. I know this made my editor cry. This bit did get me. It didn't make me cry, but it did start to set the tone of the entire episode. This week's episode is not a happy episode. It is sad. It is horrible. The weight of the guilt that must have been on this woman's head for years, absolute years, knowing you've done something and you treasure this person above everything and you've taken away that one special thing. This would have been a nightmare to live with, and especially if you like that person and she respected her. Could just imagine, even in those happy moments where she's maybe having a happier day and she's there treating her with respect and even being a nice mistress to her, the guilt on her mind must have just been horrible. It's just a very heavy episode, and what we are starting to also see in the show, in the world that we're living in, is the dangers of childbirth. The fact that they say that no kid is basically safe until you hit 7, that is really scary to know that you might even have a kid survive childbirth and you just don't know what's going to happen, because there's this huge array of illnesses that could basically get them at any point, which is that heavy vibe again. There's always this uncertainty in the show with even the babies. Mau Mau's mistress has a baby right now, and hopefully with Mau Mau around, nothing's going to happen, but it's still not out of the dark. We're not out of the woods. I love the fact that medicine is the core of the show. Both me and the editor and now moderator, we had to quickly go Google if honey was actually bad for kids, because I was like, I've never heard it, but then I've never been around people who have had babies or anything. And it does turn out that in very rare cases, honey causes I think it's called botulism or something, and it causes a bacteria to spread in the gut. I guess especially at this period of time. Fatal. Just very, very rare, but fatal. It's that detail where the show's not just giving you random stuff. It is based on science of sorts. That's where the show literally excels for me, and it literally gets my mad respect for the fact that I had to go Google that. It turned out that it wasn't fake. Honey is not to be given to a kid who is below the age of a year. But this week, definitely clearing the concubine herself of any knowledge of what was going on. I think a few times I was trying to pin it on her. I don't think she's got anything to do with the poisoning case whatsoever. I think it was something that the lady got a bit scared that people were going to find out, and the young virtuous concubine, she became a target because she simply knew too much. That story about the honey being passed on to the missing concubine because she was worried that she'd connect the dots. It's just scary to see the levels that she went to, because she attempted to essentially kill someone. And it's a very powerful episode. Mau Mau as well, those feelings, her feeling the sympathy, the pity. A lot of the show has started to circle around the idea of feeling powerless. Mau Mau does it a lot when she even talks to Jinshi about, if I am to be put to death, can you do this for me? Make sure it's this way, because she knows that death is basically hanging over her head. The moment where the lady in waiting is just crying, and the beautiful, beautiful music. I want to say Kevin Penkin, I really do, because it's got his writing, all his hallmarks all over it. The music this episode really stands out. I may have to dig out the soundtrack when they eventually release it, because I want it. I also want to know how much influence Kevin Penkin had on the soundtrack, because it's beautiful. You've got this really serious beat, and then you've got this string. I don't know, it's a classical, maybe Chinese string instrument. Could be an eru, maybe it's not, but it surfs right over the top of that very low down key. It's in a minor key, so you know it's really serious, and it surfs right over the top of it, and it really is beautiful. The music is just ace. There's so much about the show I love. There's a few things I sometimes might struggle with, and it's very confusing at times, but I love that about the show, and I love the fact that you do need to think about things twice before you make a judgment on things. Mau Mau revealed that she was wearing a body armor. She also predicted that things could have got very messy. I guess if it had got messy, it would have been very bad on both of them, because she would have perhaps been no more, and the lady in waiting wouldn't have been able to excuse that. You can't really cover up offing somebody in a palace. But it's also very sad, because she does try to offer her a way out, but I was presuming that it was a way to try and dodge the capital punishment, but it's not. And I think that was even the sadder point of the episode, where I found out that she actually ends up receiving capital punishment. I feel awful, because her actions were bad. Trying to poison somebody, trying to go to those lengths is awful. You shouldn't be doing that. But at the same time, the offing of the baby by accident, it's the thing that broke her anyway. There's so many tragic stories in this palace just coming out. There's a lot of tragedy that lies within the walls, which is really, really sad. There's this feeling of hopelessness at times. There's this feeling of being trapped and unable to really have any control over your own fate that I get with the show. The flower moment I really appreciate as being a very cute moment with Jinshi and Mau Mau, because I needed it. First half of this show is heavy. The second half of the show is heavy. It's just these little light moments which I really appreciate, with the Jinshi trying to follow her being cute, and then she's like, oh, it's poisoned, by the way. You see Jinshi's aide drop everything and rush to him because, Jinshi is his priority. If anything happens to Jinshi, it's probably going to be on his head. I love the fact that he went straight to him, and obviously it wasn't toxic or anything, but it was a really light-hearted moment. I needed it. There's a few moments where you just need something light to get over the fact that it's a very sad, heavy episode. The moment on the wall, I think, is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting is beautiful. I still want to talk about the score again at this point as well. It sounds beautifully lit. The color palette is gorgeous. There's lots of beautiful rich blues. The lighting is nice on the face. It's a really honest discussion, and I honestly just get the feeling that the concubine wants to talk. Mamal says, I think she would have said that to anybody who was sat here because she just wants to talk. And I get the feeling of a lot of these characters is they're lonely, especially with the young virtuous concubine, which is even worse now because she's lost perhaps the last point of contact who she could talk to. I just hope that Mamal was able to talk to her at some point and be there, but it wouldn't be the same kind of relationship at all. I was going to ask who was going for a walk, but we do get the answer as Mamal pretty much lands slap bang on top of that answer a bit later on. But the conversation is absolutely gorgeous. I also love the composition of this entire sequence. They are using a wide angle lens effect, which creates this fisheye type effect going on, where you would normally have a straight wall, but you can see the edges are curving because the wide angle lens, the curvature of the lens will curve the edges in. So sometimes if you've got a building and you're taking pictures of very tall buildings, you'll notice your buildings don't go straight. The lines start to curve just a little bit because of the concave nature of the lens itself. It's just stuff like this that they've put in that I just have to go hats off to. It's just such tiny details, such attention to details in this show is absolutely gorgeous. It also creates this effect of feeling really small. The characters are absolutely tiny on the wall compared to the moon, compared to everything around them, how tiny they feel within the walls of the court, within the walls of these pavilions. They just feel tiny compared to everything. I love the conversation because it also highlights how realistic Ardal really is. As she says, I'm actually a friend as opposed to a concubine by selection. It just kind of happened. She was a friend of the emperor. It just happened in the end. She said, I didn't want the position. I was trying to get rid of it, but she ended up clinging to it a bit longer. Maybe it's because she wanted to protect the young virtuous concubine. Maybe it's because maybe in the end she liked being kind of close. I don't know. There's not enough evidence there, but it really is just a very beautiful sequence. Mamal's coat, I want to give a quick nod to as well. The details in the show don't just stop at surface level stuff. They go right down to having a fur lining inside the coat just to provide some warmth, even though she says she's still really cold afterwards. I love details like this. I love the attention to the clothing. I like being able to see these different outfits. It's why I'm still holding out that Mamal is going to get a really beautiful outfit at some point so I can get my cosplay in motion, because I do want to cosplay from the show. I just haven't found that particular costume just yet, but it's going to happen. Jinshi almost killing Mamal with a jump scare this week was just amazing, and I picked up quite quickly that he was drunk. The show decided to pull the rug under my feet because I presumed it was just I'm out drinking, I got drunk, and now I'm going to have a fun moment. It turned to be one of the moments that broke me. I think I've had very bad news, and I think the moment got to me just a bit. When I saw the cry and him starting to cry, and you could see that he's really trying to hide his face in her back because he doesn't want her to look at him, that got me. I am getting the feeling that Jinshi himself is pretty lonely. He might be in that position. I guess he's also in a court surrounded by a lot of women where he's there to monitor. He get close to people, but he also can't get close to people. That must feel quite sad because I think he must have been close to Ardal as well, and he respected her. He goes to have a drink with her, then she goes away and leaves him kind of getting drunk in her room. It must be getting to him. Also, the fact that there's a lot of people losing their lives, you can see that he doesn't enjoy it. I think there's been a few times where he's always very sad to have to make actions or do actions that will result in somebody losing their lives. He is a young character. Obviously, I made the mistake of asking that question. Guys, I'm not going to do that again. I'm so sorry. He's a young character dealing with all of the stuff of the palace. The palace is a very serious place to live. Seeing him crying that upset me. That really got to me, and it made me see the character as well in a new light. Maybe even Mau Mau seeing him in a slightly different light, because she must be wondering as well. He must have just been close. Maybe he's just sad that he's losing a friend also out the court. Let's talk about the craziness right at the end. I don't want to put too much weight on Mau Mau's theory because it's actually doing a number on my head. Just a moment where I had to step away. I had to go and get my story straight, try and talk to the moderator to check that I wasn't about to say something stupid. I think I was about to say something stupid. So from what I've gathered from this crazy theory, Mau Mau thinks that the Empress Dowager had a kid at the same time as Ardal. Ardal realised that her kid would have a better life if swapped. Now, the Emperor Dowager, I'm presuming, does not know that the kids were swapped because I think they both had boys. It would have made sense if it was a girl, but again, you wouldn't get away with swapping the gender of a baby because the mum would notice. I still don't understand how there was an opening and how somebody got close enough to even swap the babies in the first place, because we've seen how much protection these concubines have. They have a lot of people surrounding them, so it would have been difficult to get a close chance to even swap a baby across. That's why Mau Mau says it's a delusional theory. And I'm going to take it as a delusional theory because it's doing a number on my head and I don't like it. From what I can see, a baby died. Ardal seems to think that her son left her. Guys, I'm getting so confused because I want to say that she thinks it left her, but her son didn't die because her son's technically alive with the Empress Dowager, which would then say that the Empress Dowager's son is technically a fake, not actually royalty, an heir to the throne, if that makes sense. But then I'm starting to think too deep in it. So that's why this show does a number on my head and I absolutely love it. There's just so much going on. There's so many wild theories going on. I noticed the anime still trying to do the pushing thing with Jinshi and Ardal. It remind me of each other. Maybe they're the same person, or maybe they could just swap clothing. I don't want to fall for it because this is the kind of show that it would do a misdirect. We've seen a few misdirects done, even in this episode in particular, when it came to, oh, there's a knife on the side. Maybe she's going to do something dangerous or anything. I just don't think them pushing the two on the screen a lot is them trying to give me hints and things. I just don't want to fall for it. I'm not going to look into it any more than I need to at the moment. I think Mau Mau's mind and imagination is absolutely crazy with how sharp it is, how good she is at deducing things. I think she's not quite on the Sherlock Holmes level of details, but she's getting there. She's a very smart girl. I love the moment at the end where you've got a virtuous concubine going in to say goodbye to the motherly Ardal. And I love the fact as well, she says, when she's looking at a young child, because she obviously can't have kids and she lost hers, that is when she turns into the motherly figure. She might be a realist, she might be a friend and more just this person who you can go to for advice. She's still a mother at heart. The music is absolutely gorgeous this week. It's beautiful. I love the ominous foreboding at the end where she turns to go back to the pavilions and you see the storm clouds starting to gather over the walls. Storm is coming away. Stuff's about to get real. We're also about to hit midway, which means we're going to have a big old reveal. The big reveal at the end that Mau Mau may not have been kidnapped is what I got from that. So she has her name on a wooden tablet because Jinshi's obviously trying to do some research into her family. They've definitely found something. I just want to be curious to see what they've actually found, because my theory was that Dad wanted revenge. I said that he was the one supplying the poison, but now I might have changed my mind on that because we find out he was dismissed for there being a lot of deaths in court. He obviously worked out that the face powder was also a killer. It's interesting to see that they either didn't listen or they banned it but then brought it back or something. It would seem that he also escaped being deleted and capital punishment for any of this, because we've seen a lot of characters deleted, removed from the plot entirely for less. It's weird that he was allowed to leave with his life. And it's also weird as well they didn't have two doctors. You would think that he's got so many concubines that if he knew he had two babies due around the same time, would you not want two doctors? Because I would presume that you'd want as many kids to survive as possible, because you know how high the mortality rate is when it comes to infants. It's a very interesting show. I'm really enjoying the mystery. I am loving the show to pieces. There's so many good details. I'm glad you guys are also enjoying the show too. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. I really can't wait to keep digging in this show with you guys. I'm just really excited to see how deep the rabbit hole goes, because I really think the rabbit hole goes a lot further than where we are right now. Thank you for your support, guys. Look forward to my end of season and my review, and I will see you guys again very shortly. Have a good day, guys. Stay safe. See you around.